What up, gangland? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you April 2nd, 2022. As the title of the video suggests, today we're going to be talking about Carolina Jackpot's favorite team on planet Earth, the Clemson Tigers, and their 2022 schedule. What does Carolina Jackpot think of it? Can I give you a little bit of a breakdown on it? Would you like to see me spin a yarn about it? Stay tuned. Hey, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring my bell, so you get notified every time Carolina Jackpot uploads new content. We're going to do college football content here all summer long. And of course, during the college football season, you will see me venture around from time to time and do a little bit of urban exploration. Also some food reviews. If those aren't your thing, keep on scrolling. But stay here for the college football content, because I assure you that during the season, it is pure gold. Today's video is not going to be a homer video. I repeat, it's not going to be a homer video. So the Clemson fans, don't get upset. Don't click off this video right now. Don't refuse to watch it, because I can guarantee you in 10 minutes, you'll like the product I'm putting out. Well, at least I hope you do. Or if you don't, go fuck yourself. I really don't care. Anyway, Tigers, what can you say? 2021 season was like one that we haven't seen in recent memory from Clemson, in that being that, well, they struggled. Let's just be frank. They struggled to a 10-3 record. 10-3 record, not 10-3. That's the score of a game they played, which I lost. Struggled to a 10-3 record. Struggled mightily in the first, well, I'll say 2/3 of the season offensively, and then seemed to kind of get it together over the course of the last 3-4 games, and finished up with double digits in the win column once again. They've won double digits, I think, every year since 2011. They've been in double digits in win column. However, they did not win the ACC this year for the first time since 2015, and did not go to the playoffs for the first time since 2014. 2014 was also the last time they didn't win the ACC as well. So unprecedented and uncharted waters for the Tigers of recent vintage. The offensive struggles can all pretty much placed a couple of spots, quarterback and offensive line. That was the trouble for most of the season. Not having a real playmaker at the receiver spot last year kind of hurt you as well. Injuries kind of hurt you as well. Not gonna lie. You did have some injuries, but you still had some elite players on both sides of the ball, and still managed to hit those double-digit wins despite all those injuries. I don't know if that's more of a tip of the cap to the coaching that they're receiving, or just the overall talent level of the players. I have to think it's kind of a little bit of both. If I had to say so, it's kind of skewed a little bit more towards the overall talent of the players. This year, you got another added challenge, despite the few losses that you had on both sides of the ball. You got new coordinators, right? New offensive coordinator, Brandon Streeter takes over. Tiger, longtime quarterbacks coach and former quarterback for Clemson, takes over as the offensive play caller, and Wes Goodwin takes over as the defensive coordinator. Now this guy, he has spent a stint coaching a little bit in the NFL as an assistant with the Arizona Cardinals, but he's a Clemson guy. He's a Clemson guy. He's been there. He was a grad assistant at Clemson after he graduated from Mississippi State, and I spent several years learning under the tutelage of the best in the game. BD! Brent Venables. He was one of the best in the game. Definitely one of the best at doing that. Also, apparently, his loins were very fruitful, because it seems like half of Clemson's defense has his last name as well. But I think they're all about gone now. They're all graduated or moved on, or something happened to him. Anyway, Wesley Goodman, whatever your name is, learned from the best there. Brent Venables, he was one of the best. That's why he is now the head coach out there at Oklahoma. So there's that. I think that the defense will actually probably fall more in the mold of what we've seen in the past, just because of this guy and his relationship with BV. Offensively, I really don't know. Not sold on it yet. You struggled a lot last year under Tony Elliott, who had been there and been quite successful in the past. And the Streeter, I don't know. Just some things I've heard out there, just a little scuttlebutt I've heard. And this is not Gamecock talk. This is just college football talk. I've heard, it said that Trevor Lawrence, when he arrived in Jacksonville, really wasn't as developed or as polished a quarterback as they'd seen a first-round pick. He took them kind of working with him a little bit, and he's still a work in progress. He really wasn't developed at Clemson all that much. It was just raw talent coming out of high school that he relied on there a lot more than really, what he was developed at Clemson. Now, like I say, that's just scuttlebutt, just things and rumors that I've heard on podcasts and various platforms. They may not even be true. Hell, I don't know. But that's just what I've heard, and I think that defensively, you've recruited more to that side of the ball anyway. So I think you'll be better over there. Offensively, you return, of course, quarterback DJ Ukulele, who struggled mightily last year. That was talked about ad nauseum. Not even going to rehash that stuff. In comes freshman, what's his name, Cade Klubnik from Texas. Number 1 quarterback in the class, maybe number 2. I don't know. He's really high up there. Receiving core, might need a little bit of work there. Justin Ross is gone. Justin Ross has been gone for the past several seasons. Though he was hurt all of 2020, and last year he really just didn't look like himself. And I don't think that it was injuries. I think it was just indifference, I guess would be the better word. This guy just didn't look like he played hard to me. It looked like he gave up on some balls that he normally would have caught, and just didn't really look like the same player. But Justin Ross is gone. Instead, you have Dakari Collins and his brother Bo Collins. Looked pretty decent last year at times, so maybe that'll give the Ukulele or the Klubnik some weapons to throw to this year. We shall see. But let's get into your 2022, not your 2020. We don't want to relive that again, do we? Your 2022 schedule and see what you got going on here. Of course, your orange and white spring game is this coming Saturday, April the 9th, over at Death Valley. That'll be a big deal there. I saw that they are putting in a new scoreboard. I don't know. The rumor is they're putting in one that has a spot for them to put triple digits for when they play the Gamecocks this year. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't hear that. It was my own corny joke. Sounds like something one of them would say, though. Probably my cousin Craig would say something like that. He'd say some shit like that. But anyway, it looks to be massive. I don't think that's going to be up by the time the spring game rolls around. There ain't no way it would be as huge as that thing was. But once again, this is 2022. They can do all kind of things technologically. However, nobody wants to work, so I don't know if they'll find anybody to put that big son of a bitch up by then anyway. But enough about that. Start off against Georgia Tech. That's Monday on September the 5th, right on Labor Day night. Kind of a weird spot. I don't think those two have ever squared off on Labor Day before. Never seen the Taters on Labor Day. Maybe they did when I was real young. I think they played against Georgia on Labor Day, to be honest with you, years ago. But I didn't watch. I still young to remember. Anyway, at Georgia Tech, this is not a very good team, and they pushed you last year. This is one of the games that kind of you saw that first game of the season. Clemson loses 10-3 to Georgia. And I think there were some rumblings, but at the same time, I think it was also the sentiment was known that Georgia was really, really good. So I think after a few days, I think most Tater fans kind of started shrugging it off as that. Well, Georgia's just really good. Next week we're going to go out, we're going to blow out Georgia Tech, and it didn't happen. Clemson struggled, like a 14-8 win over Georgia Tech last year. Can't play like that again this year. I don't think you will. A road game for you. The last time you went to Georgia Tech, Trevor Lawrence crew, they put up like 75 points, and Georgia Tech was pulling like one of those old bums from under one of those bridges over by the varsity to play linebacker. They were in such bad shape by the end of that game. That was a massacre. I think they had a running clock or something. I think Jeff Collins is on his way out there, and I think Clemson will be favored heavily in that game. We'll see what happens. Next week, you come back home, you take on Furman, right? And it's an FCS team from my hometown of Greenville, South Kakalaka, one of my adopted teams that I like to pull for when I'm not pulling for the Gamecocks. Unfortunately, in this one, I really don't think it matters how much I'm pulling for Furman. They're not beating Clemson. That's another name your score type ball game there. Maybe the ukulele and the clubnik get a little bit of a workout there against Georgia Tech. Maybe two-time around Tater Hunter Johnson gets into that game as well. I don't know. We'll see. The next week, you got Louisiana Tech at home, and this is, I don't know, I'm not sure that's the non-conference, non-Power 5 opponents you really want to be playing. They've put a scare into some teams in the SEC in recent years. They also put a scare into NC State last year, if I'm not mistaken. They definitely put a scare into Mississippi State, and you should have beaten them. But this is one, I don't know that Clemson will really struggle with them all that much. Louisiana Tech is able to push teams by throwing the ball all over the place and putting up a bunch of points. And with Clemson's defense, I just don't really see them doing a whole lot of that. I think you'll be favored there. And, that's a game that, you should win. This first part of the schedule is not that difficult at all. Sets up real nice for you going down the stretch. You're at Wake Forest the next week, and Wake Forest has had some good teams in recent years. Had a banner year in 2021, right? Won the ACC Atlantic, went to the ACC championship game, got embarrassed, but they made it there, and really set the bar high for themselves. However, it really doesn't matter how good Wake Forest is, or it doesn't seem like they can do much against Clemson. I don't see what, but it definitely seems like, had that crazy offense that Wake Forest runs that one of my friends that's a Clemson fan coined slow-paced dumpster fire, the delayed handoff stuff. He really had that figured out where, that elevated him above other defensive coordinators, right? A lot of folks weren't able to get that figured out. He was able to snuff it out pretty easily. And they have just kind of suffocated Wake Forest when they've played them in recent years. And that's a road game. So, that will be an interesting one there. Probably first real test of the season, to be honest with you. NC State the next week at home. It doesn't get a lot easier. And this is a game Clemson really got to win, right? Because they took you to double overtime last year in Raleigh, and they beat you in Carter Finley Stadium for the first time in quite a while. I think it's like 2011. NC State knocks off Clemson, and they are one of the teams, along with yourselves, that is picked to finish pretty high in the Atlantic side of the ACC. Can you take them down, or do they make it two in a row? We'll have to see, but I definitely think it'll be favored on October 1st. There, the game they used to call it the Textile Bowl, didn't they? Clemson and NC State. The next week, you travel to Boston College. Now, Clemson has played Boston College the past 2 years at home both years. 2020 had something to do with the COVID deal and the retooled ACC schedule. And they really pushed you both years. They were absolutely obliterating you in 2020, and you came back and won that game. I believe that Trevor Lawrence was hurt in that one, right? Or he was sick. He had COVID, right? He was sick, and he missed that one, and he missed the Notre Dame game. The Boston College one was the ukulele's first start, I do believe, and he threw for a bunch of yards, but still, you struggled to win that game. could have sure been a precursor to things to come, I guess, maybe. And last year, just zero offense whatsoever, but you still found a way to win that game. And once again, this is not a homer video, and I'm not talking a bunch of trash here, but the fact of the matter is, and you guys know it as well as I do, you didn't have an offense for the first 2/3 of the season. Simple as that. Once the running game got established, I didn't talk about this to begin the video. Maybe I should have. The running game got established with Phil Maffa, Kobe Pace, and Will Shitley. They got the ball rolling there on the ground, and you really started to see a different dimension of that offense open up. But at the time, you couldn't do anything against Boston College, but still were able to eke out the win over them. This time, you go on the road for the first time. You go to Beantown. What's 2019, maybe 2018 was the last time you were there. Should be an interesting game. Jeff Hafley doing some good things in Boston. We'll see how this one ends up. That should be a good game. Next week, you're on the road again at Florida State. Clemson's dominated Florida State since 2015. Haven't lost to them either. It's kind of when their run of dominance just kind of sort of petered out, didn't it? It seemed like they were so dominant for so many years, and then all of a sudden, you turn around and look, and they're nowhere to be found. Last year started off really bad. You lost to FCS Jacksonville State at home. Looked as if the team had given up, but they finally got it together and ended up with a 5-7 record. Lost to Florida in the last game of the season, their rivalry game, and I thought they would beat Florida. I really did, but didn't happen, and they don't go to a bowl game last year. I know it had to kind of sting for them when that number one overall recruit, whatever his name was, 5-star kid, his name escapes me now. He was committed to Florida State, big man, and signed with Jackson State on signing day. Look, give me a break. That kid no more cares about HBCUs than he does a man in the moon. He cared about that $1 million NIL money, and that's sad. And that's what college football has come to. But that's what the world we live in now. Not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I'm just saying it's different, kind of different to deal with. And at Florida State, I know that Florida State is they're hungry to beat Clemson. This is their rivals in the conference there for years and years, and Clemson kind of owns you the past 5-6 years in Florida State. Last year kind of blew a golden opportunity to beat Clemson. Last year was the year that you could have done it. This coming season, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to pan out. We'll see. I don't really know what to expect from Florida State, and that should be another good game though. Syracuse at home the next week. Again, Dino Babers has pushed Clemson a little bit. Beat you in 2017 in the Carrier Dome. Last year, you struggled to beat them in the Carrier Dome in a Friday night game. And I was glad to see that Dino Babers is returning as Syracuse's coach. There was some scuttlebutt about that too, that they thought he was going to lose his job at the end of the season due to poor performance. But Syracuse is kind of like a Vanderbilt type situation. I really don't know who they were going to get to do a whole heck of a lot better at Syracuse. And Syracuse may actually be a more attractive, in fact, I know it's got to be a more attractive football program for a college football recruit. At least they have some history there of winning at a decently high level, right? But Dale Babers hasn't been doing it. But I'm glad to see that they retained him. If a young man isn't motivated to go out there and run through a damn wall after listening to that man give a pregame speech, I don't know that young man can be motivated. Like Dino Babers, like what he's doing. Home game for Clemson, you should be favored big here. We'll see how that goes. Then you're off. You finally get an off week, you're going to need it. Because you go on the road the next week to take on Notre Dame. Second time in 3 years. You're heading out to South Bend. And this one's on November the 5th. you come in here with one loss, they come in with one loss, or if both of you are undefeated, if one of us is undefeated and one has one loss, vice versa, I can see this being a primetime game on Saturday night on NBC. The place will be full. And last year, or last time you played at Notre Dame, there were only like 15,000 people there because it was a COVID crowd. But after they beat you, when they stormed the field, you would have thought that the place was at 80,000 capacity, which is, what would normally be there for a game between you guys. So it will be a loud environment, and you'll get the full experience of that one. But it should be a good game. At that point, I wouldn't even venture to know who would be favored, but that one is going to be a big game for the Clemson team. Next week at home against Louisville, those about games between Clemson and Louisville. They're either blowouts or it seems like they come down to the wire. Last year it came down to the wire. Their quarterback, Malik Cunningham, had a busted wheel and couldn't quite make it into the end zone there at the end. Had he been able to do that, you would have lost. Or if he'd been healthy, you would have lost. But ifs, ands, buts, and coconuts, right? This one's at home. I think Louisville will probably be down somewhat this year and should be favored there. And then the next week, big home matchup against Miami. Now, I know a couple of years ago, Clemson played Miami at home. Everybody thought this was going to be a huge matchup, and Clemson just kind of obliterated them a little bit and kind of made Miami look silly. But this will be Mario Cristobal's first time facing off against the Taters as a head coach. And I think Miami made a good hire here. I think he's a local guy. I think he's got that local swag about him. And he's coached successful teams in the past. Not that Mark Richt hadn't, but I think Mark Richt had kind of petered out and reached the end of his coaching career, whilst I think Cristobal may be in his prime. I think he's going to recruit well to Miami. I mean, does this year's team really step into elite status and challenge the ACC? Maybe. A lot of it may ride on this game. I think that Miami is clearly the best team in the coastal side of the ACC this year. I don't really look like North Carolina. I think Virginia Tech, those guys are kind of rebuilding a little bit. And Pittsburgh, same boat. But Pittsburgh, yet another team that you don't know what to expect from it. It's kind of like the Auburn of the ACC. You just do not know what you're going to get with Pittsburgh. This is a big game for Clemson, and it's a big game for Miami as well. If Mario Cristobal is able to pull this one off and win this game at Clemson, I think this would have to be their signature victory of the season. Well, maybe if they were able to upset Texas A&M, you could make the argument for that as well. However, this one will have much more meaning conference-wise. South Carolina plays Tennessee the same day, and I really don't know if how that's going to play out. It's weird the way that this may play into that rivalry game between South Carolina and Clemson. Both of them are used to kind of having easy weeks before they face off against each other. That's not exactly the case here this year. South Carolina's got a game against Tennessee. By that point in the season, I would expect both of those teams to be, bowl eligible. South Carolina and Tennessee, and fighting for maybe a second, third place in the SEC. That's just the way that it plays out. Hope that it plays out that way. That we're not bottom feeding again. So I don't know how much attention the rivalry game is going to get between Clemson and South Carolina. Henceforth, that being said, I don't want the rivalry game being the next week to detract South Carolina's attention from Tennessee. And I don't want it to distract, and I don't think that that would distract the Taters' attention from South Carolina. I think they're past that. Maturity-wise and coaching-wise, I think the Clemson program would be past doing such things. But that being said, this is a huge game for Clemson at home, and then the next week, yet another home game. You finish it up with a string of 3 in a row against my Gamecocks, and one team that, let's just be honest with, offensively last year, I mean, you didn't struggle with. I mean, you finally found your groove there. The South Carolina defense looked absolutely abysmal and sad last year against Clemson. I can't recall a time when I've been more disappointed, more frustrated, and just more in general pissed the hell off as I was that Saturday night. But I was very aggravated with that one, and that was a game that I had tickets to go to and chose to give one to my son and his friend, and just forewent the game and decided to stay home and live stream it. And boy, I'm glad that I did, because I really did not want to be there in that type of atmosphere and environment. Bad night in Columbia, just a bad night in Columbia. The Clemson running game and Will Shitley made them look silly. The ukulele did nothing as usual. Was his MO last season. They didn't need to. South Carolina offensively looked as bad as I'd seen them look in quite some time in that game. So, with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this little preview of the Clemson schedule for 2022. I mean, do they make a move back to the college football playoffs this year? Do they go undefeated in conference? Do they win the conference? How about that big game at Notre Dame? Which game on their schedule is the biggest? Is it the game at Notre Dame, which is technically a non-conference game, or is it the game at home against Miami? Maybe it's the game against NC State. Maybe it's the game against Georgia. No, it's not that one. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of the Clemson Tigers for 2022. I'll see y'all later. Baruch it. Peace. I'm out of here. Go Gamecocks. Go Coach Beamer. Woo!